species have increased significantly, notably because of increased travel, trade, and tourism.
To what extent are ecosystems used sustainably?
The sustainable use of biodiversity is the fourth focal area in the 2010 framework. Possible indicators could be the preparation of ecosystems under sustainable management or being certified as meeting certain criteria for sustainability. The ecological footprint is a concept that calculates the area of land and water needed to sustain a defined human population, based on the population's use of energy, food, water, and building material and other consumables. In 1961, humanity at the global level was using about half of the Earth's capacity to renew its natural resources. Now, this capacity is exceeded and overuse is still growing.
Are other objectives of the Convention on Biological Diversity being met?
The fifth focal area in the 2010 framework addresses traditional knowledge of indigenous people and local communities, which provide the basis for the management and protection of local biodiversity. There is great concern over the continuing survival of this knowledge, as it is often transmitted using indigenous languages, which are generally spoken only by a small number of people. The fair and equitable sharing of the benefits arising out of the utilization of genetic resources, which makes up the sixth focal area, would provide incentives to protect biodiversity. Some countries have implemented laws to control access to genetic resources. However, there is no reliable central source of information on national access and benefit sharing measures. The seventh focal area covers the financial and technical resources required for the implementation of the Convention, particularly for developing countries. The total aid to developing countries for biodiversity has declined since 1998.
How is the Convention on Biological Diversity being implemented?
Translating the content of the Convention into policy and practice is extremely challenging. Policy instruments developed by the Convention include thematic programs of work of the Convention, covering 7 major biomes, programs of work on technology transfer, protected areas and classification of organisms, taxonomy, and principles and guidelines on issues relevant to all thematic areas, including biodiversity monitoring, impact assessment, incentive measures, and invasive alien species. The Conference of the Parties adopted in 2002 a strategic plan which encompasses 4 goals. To date, progress has been reasonable towards promoting international cooperation in support of the Convention, limited towards ensuring that parties have improved capacity to implement the Convention, far from sufficient regarding planning and implementing, at national level, actions to achieve the objectives of the Convention, mixed towards achieving a better understanding of the importance of biodiversity and of the Convention.
Are we on track for meeting the 2010 biodiversity target?
Both an analysis of current trends and different plausible scenarios indicate that biodiversity loss is likely to continue in the foreseeable future, and certainly beyond 2010. Unprecedented additional efforts at all levels will be needed to achieve the 2010 biodiversity target. It is too soon to assess progress towards the goals and targets set by the Convention, but prospects seem better for some targets than others. It is possible to achieve many of the targets if the Convention on Biological Diversity is properly implemented. However, it appears very unlikely that all targets will be achieved globally by 2010. Most of the factors causing biodiversity loss, habitat change, climate change, invasive alien species, overexploitation, and pollution are projected to remain constant or increase in the near future. Additional actions are required to address these factors. Here in Grenada, it is imperative to integrate biodiversity concerns into economic and development planning, programs and policies, and to engage the main actors in key economic sectors. More specifically, biodiversity concerns should be integrated into the food and agriculture sector, the energy sector, trade policies, and poverty alleviation strategies.
What actions are needed to address the negative impact on biodiversity?
It is important to include biodiversity in sectors such as agriculture and energy. Much progress has been made in terms of developing policies and tools for implementing the Convention on Biological Diversity, but implementation at national levels has so far been limited. Urgent and unprecedented actions are needed to achieve the 2010 biodiversity target. In order to meet the 2010 target, the parties to the Convention should develop and ensure the implementation of comprehensive national biodiversity strategies and action plans, promote greater awareness of the importance of biodiversity, and integrate biodiversity concerns into national policies, programs, and strategies on trade, agriculture, forestry, and fisheries, and development planning. Meetings of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention offer the opportunity to agree upon necessary actions for addressing threats to biodiversity. Meeting the objectives of the Convention requires concerted action from all nations of the world. Therefore, all countries should adhere to the Convention since it is critical to sustain life on Earth. As individuals, we all have an essential part to play in promoting biodiversity conservation and sustainable use. We can demand action from all levels of government. Moreover, in our everyday choices, we all can have direct positive impacts on biodiversity and the state of our planet's ecosystems. For instance, by supporting sustainable consumption and waste reduction. Corporations should also assume responsibility for the environmental impacts of their activities and choose suppliers that adopt sustainable practices. Presently, there are 193 parties to the Convention, while there are 163 signatories. Grenada signed the Convention on Biological Diversity on December 3, 1992, and became a party through ratification on August 11, 1994. It signed the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety on May 24, 2000, ratified it on February 5, 2004, and became a party to the protocol on May 5, 2004.